Win big in 2024 with Team Sync from RotoBaller. Import your fantasy teams and sync your leagues. Get customized tools and tailored advice for your specific rosters and scoring settings, including live recommendations from the live draft assistant, free agent finder, and lineup optimizer. Sync an unlimited amount of NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL fantasy teams from all of the major fantasy platforms. Get a discount for any premium pass using my promo code Knuckler. Just visit rotoballer.com/radio and start rotoballing like a boss. This podcast is also brought to you by Parlay Play Fantasy Sports. Use my referral code RotoBrady. Get that sweet, sweet deposit bonus. They're giving out boosts and slashing lines every single day. Check it out. It's a whole lot of fun. Folks, there's a lot of MMA this week, even though it's a UFC off week. We got LFA, PFL, Cage Warriors, Invicta, Octagon, Joshua versus your boy Brave CF on Sunday. For my picks on all of that stuff and the Contender Series every week, follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady. Follow the podcast at Tap That MMA Podcast on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify.
And her opponent, fighting out of the Nutrition Company of Cheyenne Blue Corner.
With an ad right in the middle, right?
Oh, no.
Hey, that intro. I'm going to let 4 seconds tick off, and I'm going to play that.
Okay.
Denver, Colorado, representing Sambo One Training Center and Pound for Pound Fitness, the headhunter, Khortni.
The headhunter.
Tonight, she has combat sports experience in about anything that you could possibly name, especially when it comes to the stand-up department. She is going to be fighting at BYB 31 Stockyard Brawl against Patricia Juarez coming up this Saturday. Give it up for the headhunter, Khortni Kamyron. Khortni, thank you so much for being here. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Thanks so much for having me.
So first off, let's just talking about Saturday. Let's talk about that real quick.
Okay.
Getting to fight in Colorado again, that's got to be, especially when you're coming into a new bare knuckle promotion in BYB, and this is your promotional debut, it's got to be a huge boost to you to be able to do that in front of a home crowd and with your normal team and your normal training regimen.
Yeah, it's actually been really, really nice not having to worry about travel and whatnot. I'm very fortunate because all of my professional bare knuckle fights have been here in Colorado, and my entire amateur career I spent traveling. So I was going, to all the different states and stuff. So being able to fight here at home again is very nice.
And that was the thing, like looking through, like back through your career, and Tapology doesn't even really scratch the surface of your amateur career, but
Yeah.
like island fights in there, an organization that's really good on the regional scene down in like the Southeast and whatnot, Sparta, Wyoming. And in fact, like I saw you do like a boxing cage match in Sparta, Wyoming. That was like, I don't know how to describe the outdoor setting. I don't know if it was like at a fair or like in a business park. Like
It was at the Outlaw Saloon up in Cheyenne.
Oh.
They set up the cage in the ring outside of the Outlaw Saloon. So that's where we were at, was just right outside that venue.
And here's the thing about like your whole combat sports career is you've done boxing in the cage, you've done bare knuckle, you've done kickboxing in the cage, and you've got, again, a bunch of other fights on your amateur record that Tapology does not have record of. But it's got to be like part of your edge going into BYB and when you went into to BKFC, that you've really shown that you can adjust to a whole plethora of circumstances.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a lot of people say that. They're like, oh, well, you're only blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, way more than that. This is actually Saturday is going to be my 21st combat sports fight. So yeah, it's kind of cool. It's like a nice little surprise to tell people.
And for people that like might not know, what would you describe as the differences between like boxing in a cage as opposed to a ring? Like what are any of the strategic differences or just the feel differences?
It's actually really crazy because I swapped them, right? So I did boxing in a cage and I did MMA in a boxing ring twice. So it was really strange. At the time, I didn't really know. I didn't have too much strategy behind it. It was just kind of just go in there and do the thing. the first boxing fight that I had in the cage was against a legit boxer, but we just kind of stood in the middle the entire time and had it out. The second boxing fight that I had in the cage was against an MMA fighter, and we still just kind of kept it right there in the center. There were no corners to really get caught in and utilize.
And, it's crazy, like, that you're going to be making your promotional debut in BYB after, 3 professional fights in BKFC, because there's the Trigon, and it seems like it should make so little of a difference. Like, it's just a triangle as opposed to a square or a circle. But you definitely see people that are able to take advantage of it better than others. And it really seems to favor people who apply pressure. So how do you, I've seen some stuff about how you said you were preparing for the Trigon, but like, wait, how did you feel initially? Like, is this something that you thought immediately, like this is going to benefit you in the way that you fight?
No, at first I was intimidated by the size and by the corners, because I was such a far distance fighter. Far distance, that's terrible English, but I would always fight so far on the outside that the tight space just didn't make sense to me and my fighting style. However, I have learned to thrive in that small space, training for this. So I'm really excited because my last fight with BKFC, there was so much space in there that my opponent was moving and I had no way to corner her. I controlled where we were going, but she just kept going and there was no stopping it. So, having this, there's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to go, and you got to be smart with it. So,
and like at this point in your career, because I've heard you say too that, like, naturally grappling, you started doing that when you started training to fight, really. And so, and for a lot of people, it's got to be the biggest gap that they have to make up is the grappling. So is there any like thought of returning to MMA, or is it like, why, when you're in such a good spot in the bare knuckle world and and you're making your promotional debut for BYB and it's going to be for a belt?
yeah, I prefer stand-up fighting. To be honest, I actually, when I started my last camp, I had told a couple of my friends and my teammates, I'm like, I'm done with MMA. I am so done. I don't like going to the ground. I want to stand. I want to brawl. I want to throw strikes. My grappling game is absolutely horrible, and I am so old in the fight community, as a fighter, that trying to play catch up against girls that have been training since they were 4 or 5 years old is just, it's unrealistic at this point. So, and I'm sitting really good in my professional career as a bare knuckle fighter and I love it. So I'm just going to keep following that path and see where it goes.
And I've talked to a good amount of BYB fighters and end up, broaching the same subject, where it's like, think about it, like you could have, let's say that you only fought MMA from the time of your amateur career starting to now. Where, this is a sport where you lose and you win some. It's not a sport where you're expected to stay undefeated. If things go well up to that point, maybe like you're headlining some regional promotions or whatever. For BYB, you're fighting for a title on, a pay-per-view card. And for a lot of fighters that started later in life or got into actually competitive fighting later in life, it's a path much quicker to make the most out of your career while you have the opportunity to.
Exactly. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I'll turn 39 a week after this fight, and I don't know how much longer my body's going to let me go, but I might as well try to get to the top and accomplish as many, phenomenal things as I can while I still can.
And I've seen you talk about this too on another podcast, where it's like, people don't realize, people see people who are 35 years and older in bare knuckle, and it's like, oh my God, how could they do that? And it's so, but it's so frustrating to explain to people what the safety benefits are. This is a sport where it actually allows you to compete longer into your career than you normally would be because of the rules. And you can say it to some people 1,000 times, and you could show them all the data and information and logic, And like, look, you protect your hands more in this kind of fight. You take less, volume to the head. And a lot of people still, it's just like, no, I don't know. That seems pretty brutal. And it's like, come on, like, but it allows you, we see a lot of fighters, especially, from not the lighter weight classes in this sport, that they're able to fight, much longer than they normally would be.
Yeah, I actually last year I had the privilege of sitting down and talking to Ben Rothwell, and he was saying that the transition into bare knuckle for him is prolonging his career as well, because I know a lot of girls that I train with, they're like, man, I'm switching to bare knuckle. This is amazing. Like, my body feels good. We're not taking that punishment of going down to the ground constantly and having to use your entire body to wrestle and get out. And one of the girls I've been training with, she's been long time in MMA and she's a phenomenal grappler. And she's like, man, everybody just wants to go down to the ground. All they want to do is wrestle. I just want to stand up and fight too. So, she's finding a way of transitioning and putting longevity in her career as well by switching to bare knuckle. And she's, I think 6 or 7 years younger than I am.
And it's an era where obviously we're seeing a lot of people make those transitions and hop back between, either their core, whatever it might be, boxing or MMA, and they're able to, at different points in their career, hop into bare knuckle, whether it's just like that's the best opportunity for them at the time, or, I'm sure we'll see a wave of UFC and former Bellator heavyweights make the move over, especially when half of Bellator's heavyweight division's probably older than 38 too.
Yeah.
But like a company like BYB, so BKFC, I think we can fairly say is the most name recognizable bare knuckle organization out there. But BYB, I not just because I've had a lot of their fighters on this show and I have as good of a relationship with them as, it gets people on the show and it's a good thing, but they get it. That's as good as I can, like, BYB gets it. In acquiring BKB, they have those resources to acquire great talent. They put on good shows. They have good name recognition. Hell, Mike Goldberg calling those fights, it's immediate legitimacy. So what has kind of this transition been like for where your whole professional bare knuckle career was under the BKFC banner, and now you're transitioning to BYB and you're immediately put in, what is a pretty big spot?
Yeah, I know. That was super crazy. I'm very, very grateful that they wanted to give me this opportunity. I'm also very grateful because with BKFC, there wasn't a lot of girls in my division, so fighting options were very limited for me. Whereas over here at BYB, they have girls my size. There's a huge roster of girls, right? So I'm looking at being shelved until they can sign another 135er at BKFC, or like, hey, we got a dozen girls. Let's just take our pick and have at it. I can stay active and again make the most of what I can with the remaining part of my career. Everybody's been super welcoming and just friendly. I've never heard a bad thing from fighters. Never heard a bad thing about BYB and the way they take care of their people. So I'm really excited for that. I like the smaller aspect of it too, because they put more into their fighters versus, a bigger name card putting more focus on those bigger names. And and not to sell myself short, but smaller name people like myself, we can't compete with that, so we're losing our slots on fight cards to these people that they're, they got big names, but they're also getting big paychecks when all I want to do is just fight.
And, to put this, if I had to make a criticism of BKFC as a company, and it's not a negative thing, I think it's more an observation, is just like they're a little bit more catering to the not as much social media like personalities, but it's more like name recognition goes a far way there. Like you see Paige Van Zandt and Mike Perry, able to become like, huge, and everybody knows when they have a fight coming up that weekend, but there's not as much focus on the rest of the card.
Yes.
And they're filling those cards with recognizable names, however they can do that, and it's been a good model for them. It's but BYB, I think, has been like quietly moving really well. And that's all I've heard from people is that they love working with BYB, and I would think that like eventually I would get suspicious if it wasn't fighters I was talking to. Like eventually I would have come up with somebody that was not afraid to say what they thought about that. So that's an awesome thing to hear.
Yeah. It's been great. I've talked to fighters that have been in both organizations, and the fighters that have come from BKFC into BYB, they are the same. They're like, man, I love fighting for this company. So I'm really excited.
It seems like it's a great company for people that want to fight,
Mm-hmm.
and so to your point before too, I have long been an advocate in many mediums that I want to see an atomweight division, and that I do not understand in MMA why for heavyweight, for super heavyweight, for women's bantamweight, featherweight, and upward, this is a planet of 8 billion people. I refuse to believe that there are not enough talented fighters at all of these weight classes to have competitive divisions. It's so long been dismissed. Like the UFC featherweight division was Cyborg, and then it was Amanda Nunes, and everybody was ready for it to go away as soon as those two were gone. And it's like, I just refuse to believe that if you don't give this a little bit of time, that there's not enough people that can compete at those weight classes.
Yeah, you just have to be given the opportunity, really. I know there's fighters out there too. I mean, crap, I fought all the way up at 155 before, and it was a great fight. So they just, I don't know. I don't know if it's the smaller, quicker fighters that are more enticing, or there's just more of the smaller fighters versus more the heavier female fighters. I'm not sure, but yeah.
And I guess it comes down to like, different prospect pools across the world. Like if they're going to Thailand and China for, MMA talent, there's going to be a lot of people that can occupy those 105 and 115-pound divisions. Sure, but this is the United States of America. I know that there's a lot of women that are 135 pounds and over comfortably that are able to that put on good performances.
Yeah, that's what I like about BYB too, is the different weight classes that they have and the roster of girls there. I could easily fight in 3 or 4 weight classes for BYB.
And so this upcoming fight that, by the way, folks, BYB 31, she is going to be fighting Patricia Juarez for the BYB super lightweight Police Gazette World Diamond Belt. Now, first of all, super lightweight, again, to the versatility of the weight classes that you were talking about, what is the official weight for super light? If there's one criticism of BYB, it's that sometimes I am confused by their weight classes and their championship belts.
Yeah.
Super lightweight, what is the weight going to be for that?
140 pounds.
Okay. That makes sense. And the Police Gazette World Diamond Belt, I know that they have other belts, like the way that they call it. Do you know what exactly the difference is between the Police Gazette World Diamond Belt and like what they would call like their regular belt? I asked someone else this who was fighting for coming up, and they were like, "No, I have no idea."
So originally it was supposed to be for the BYB promotional title, so the title that the promotion holds. The Police Gazette Diamond Belt is actually, I did some research, it is the oldest combat sports title in the world, and it dates back to like 1860.
Oh shit, that's so much cooler than a promotion.
Right? Right? I'm like, oh my gosh, like, no offense, but screw the promotional title. I want that diamond belt.
You can trace the lineage of that belt going back centuries. That's sweet.
Yes. So that's the I think it's Scott Burt that runs all of that stuff out of Knuckletown, up in New York or whatever. He's the one that does all the medals for the winners. He does the Police Gazette diamond belts. Like, yeah, I to be honest, before I didn't know like what would make a fight constitute that belt, and then they just announced that they're getting rid of the promotional title, and it is all that. All the titles are the Police Gazette belt now. So that kind of upped the ante for me and just made me work that much harder.
I mean, really, like that makes me think too, like really bare knuckle boxing is one of the oldest combat sports.
Yes.
And so this fight with Patricia Juarez coming up on Saturday, and I'll ask you about the links for the pay-per-view and all that stuff, and I'll have you send that to me afterward or some way so we can get that out there. But Patricia really is on a fantastic run in BYB. She, has by the vast majority done mostly winning in her professional career. She held a 2-1 advantage in her trilogy against Monica Medina. She's coming off a 2-fight winning streak. How do you feel about this matchup? And especially with you've been on the good end and the bad end of some really close decisions throughout your combat sports career. So with that in mind, how are you approaching this matchup with Patricia, and how do you feel about it going into Saturday?
So I said this before in another interview I've done within the last 2 weeks. I know that I'm the underdog in this fight statistically and on paper, betting odds, whatever. I am the underdog. I have everything to prove, right? I have everything to prove. I have to prove to the promotion that I'm worthy of the opportunity they gave me. I have to show the world why the promotion gave me this opportunity. And then I have to take this belt. I know it's a vacant title, it's a inaugural title, but she's already a title holder at 135 pounds, right? So I have to go in there and prove why I'm better. So it kind of ups the ante on all levels for me. It's one of those positions where I'm in a corner and I have to push myself out of this corner and show everybody no, this is mine. I deserve this. And that's honestly how I feel. That's how I feel this week. It's all about, I just need to prove that I deserve this to everybody else. I know I deserve it to myself. I know what I'm capable of doing. I'm super excited about the matchup. I know I have not seen any crazy lopsided fights with BYB. They're all super even. And then when I saw the betting odds came out of mine and Patty's fight and how even it was there too, I was like, all right, cool. This is a really good even matchup. She doesn't quit and she doesn't back down, and neither do I. If you look at my second fight with BKFC, my face was busted apart and all over the place, and I still finished all 5 rounds and took it to a draw. So I think stylistically, with both of us being that headstrong and pushing forward, I think it's going to make for a great fight regardless.
How do you feel about the potential 7 rounds?
I mean, I trained to go the full distance and then some. So, she's from here in Colorado, as am I. So elevation's not going to play a factor in all of that.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, it's going to be great. So I'm basically a Colorado native. I've been here my entire life. I don't know how long she's lived here in Colorado, but the gas tank's not going to be an issue for either one of us. I can promise that. So if it goes to 7, it'll go to 7. That's just one more round that we both get to showcase our skills and challenge the hell out of each other.
And to the parity of competition that you were kind of talking about earlier, you're someone who, in all the fight tape that I have seen of you, you put a lot of gusto into your counterpunching. And it's something that could really catch people, especially in the bare knuckle format, in this Trigon format, could really catch people by surprise if they're rushing you and being over aggressive, or if they think you're hurt, which, as we have seen, if it looks like you're hurt, that's probably deceptive.
No, I will say I've never strategically tried to fake hurt.
That's not what I mean. That's if your opponent thinks that you're hurt, they should probably question how hurt that you are.
Yeah, no, never count me out. If I look like I'm beat to crap, I probably am, but I won't quit. I will throw and continue fighting until somebody tells me either the fight is done or I can't fight anymore. If you look at my record too, all of my losses have been a split decision loss. I have never been like dominated in a fight or anything like that. There was one fight, it was my last MMA fight as an amateur, where I just ate a solid right hand at 2 minutes and 58 seconds in round 5 of a title fight. Still, I was ready to get up and keep going. So, yeah. Don't ever count me out, unless I am on the floor and not moving, because I will keep going.
And I mean, this is a great weekend for this event to be happening. You know, at least it's in a UFC off week. And, you know, people kind of have their pick of all the different, you know, combat sports that are going to be going on this weekend. Folks, BYB 31, Saturday night. Khortni Kamyron is going to be fighting for the BYB Super Lightweight Police Gazette World Diamond Belt against Patricia Juarez. Khortni, thank you so much for being here tonight. This was a lot of fun. If you have anybody you want to shout out, anything you want to say, if you want to provide people with any, you know, pay-per-view information or anything like that, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun too. I want to give a quick shout out to my sponsors, Hi-Fi Plumbing and Color Tax Resolution. They have been behind me for my last 7 fights, I think. They're always there, always phenomenal. So if you want to go give them a follow, feel free. Shout out to my teammates and coaches at Genesis and Teep City and Barwis here in Colorado. All of my teammates, my family, my friends, I love everybody so much, and I couldn't do this without you. I will post pay-per-view link and ticket link on my page at Khortni Kamyron on Facebook, or at Khortni_ on Instagram. And you guys can just click those links directly, or shoot me a message if you can't find it, and I'll help you out. I talk to everybody that messages me, so I should probably not say that too much, but I try.
Folks, thank you so much for listening. We got a UFC off week. For all my picks on everything combat sports related this week, follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady. Go find Khortni Kamyron on every social media platform that you can.
Yep.
Follow her. Don't necessarily message her, all right? But Khortni, I wish you nothing but the best of luck and health moving into Saturday. I'm going to be rooting for you. I can't wait to see what the result is. Folks, thank you so much for listening. You all tune in as well on Saturday to BYB 31. Have yourselves a great week, and peace.